Peter out in Henderson, Nevada. He writes to me and he says, Paul, I am going to build a new system from scratch. Good job. I believe that the type of music to which I mostly listen to could play a role in component selection. I know there's a lot of other factors and variables, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. You know, we get asked this a lot, and I kind of call it building a rock and roll system, or could be a jazz system or a chamber system. And people do this a lot. People will write us and say, I listen mostly to rock and roll, or I listen mostly to this or that. And I want to build a system that honors that music. And we've been doing that sort of thing for years. It's not something that I advocate. It's not something that I think is a great idea, because music is music. And to build a system that is rock and roll intensive, just as an example, and I don't really know what his system, what his needs are, but to build a genre-specific system, I think is a mistake. Because if we take the example of rock and roll, there, what do we need? Rock and roll's got some dynamics. It has to play loud, and you got to have good bass, right? And you don't want the cymbals and whatnot to drive you out of the room. Well, in that same vein, a symphonic orchestra has those very same qualities. A big orchestral piece has got a ton of bass. Is it from a Fender? No. But I gotta tell you, 10 guys bowing their asses off on a big double bass and kettle drums, or a pipe organ, good grief. They can rattle the floors and the cages of audiophiles the world over in the same way that Ginger Baker can play the drums and Jack Bruce can play the bass for rock and roll. So you've got the same issues, just with different forms of music. So what you want is a system that is capable of doing it all. And maybe that sounds like, oh yeah, sure, of course, we want it to do all, but it's not that hard. Now, you don't need this massive Infinity IRS 5 system. Yes, it will do it all. It'll play a single violin perfectly and a giant Mozart Requiem beautifully. But you don't need to have that. As long as you've got decent equipment and primarily great full-range speakers, either speakers that within the band that they work well, they have natural timbre and sonics, and then you augment it with a subwoofer, nothing wrong with that. But that's the key. And that's why I advocate always full range systems. Regardless of how you get there, go full range with your system, and then it'll work great for jazz. It'll work great for rock. Whatever you want, go full range and you will be in heaven. Okay, thanks. Great question. Talk to you later.